everybody? It's your girl Cam. I have some great news. Gift cards are now available on my website. You can get them in $10, $25, $50, or $100 denominations. They're great for friends, coworkers, or that someone special. So go to my website at www.camilaesther.com and grab yours today. Hit that notification button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I hope to see you guys on live. Have a great day. Bye. Hey, what's up, DJ?
Hey, what's up, Queen?
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
So I'm super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me. And I also want to thank all of my viewers and followers there on Instagram Live as well, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So we're doing something a little different, guys. We're doing a Friday Night Live here on the Speaker Podcast. You know, we got to switch it up. That's why it's important for you to hit those notifications and follow me, because you never know, I may pop up on you. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and kick off tonight. And before we do that, I do want to shout out some of my sponsors. I want to give a shout out to the Mark Coley Business Academy, Dream Doer Nation, Gracie Ray Beauty, the Racondius Experience, Candy's Cocoa Bombs, Chemistry Room Fragrances, Michael Wiley Photography. And we're going to get in tonight. So with that being said, I want you to introduce yourself. What's up, DJ? Let the people know who you are and what you do.
Hey, appreciate you. Thank you so much for this opportunity again. I go by the name of D.A. Smalls. I'm a Christian lyricist. Everything I do is faith-based. I also do motivational speaking, personal training as well, and construction work.
Awesome, cool. So we're going to get right into the conversation. I actually ran across you. My friend Austin, he referred me to you. He's like, oh, you need to check this brother out. He's really cool or whatever. So we did a live. You kind of popped up and shared a little bit of your journey. So those that are not familiar with you, can you kind of give us a little bit of your background and just where you are as far as how you got here today?
Okay. I'll start off with, hey, I was raised in Cross, South Carolina. That's in the country where the cows walk across your yard. So but I was raised in Cross, South Carolina. I went to Cross Elementary, Cross High School. I was raised in an adoptive home. I was adopted. So the home that I was raised in was very interesting and abusive at the same time. But as I got out of high school, I ran away from home. When I ran away from home, I met some of my family. I got to get a chance to know what was going on in the world because I was very restricted. I started doing poetry at the age of 12, at the age of 12. And then music, it transformed into music after I saw the movie Sister Act 2. Once that happened right there, I started doing gospel inspirational music. And slowly I kind of transitioned into a little bit of the secular world. And then I went to the military because I was sleeping outside, eating out of garbage cans. So when I went to the military, I kind of lost track of the music, but I stayed with it to myself. Once I got out of the military, I ended up moving to Nebraska. Along with Nebraska, I started doing motivational speaking, and I lost everything in like a matter of 2 hours. And I lost my house, my money, my car, even my fiance at the time, based off of lies and deceit on my end. And I moved back to Charleston, where the healing process needed to start it, and I committed my life to Christ. And that was it. You know, I went back to the music because my kids was wanting to enjoy it, and that was it.
Wow. So let's kind of go back into your childhood. You mentioned that you said it was interesting and abusive. Can you kind of like share with us as far as what that environment was like for you?
Sure can. I say interesting because I had a stepmother who raised us. My stepfather wasn't with her, so he was with somebody else, but she stayed in the home, and he told her as long as she took care of us, she could stay in the home, which I found out as I got older. So she raised us, but she worked all the time, and eventually he moved in, and he gave her like a 30-day notice, and he bought her a trailer and everything like that, and told her that, hey, she could stay in the trailer, beautiful, and raise us still. And because she didn't want to do that, she ended up leaving at like the age of 12. My new stepmama came in, so it was three. It was me, my brother, and then this newfound sister that my dad had brought into the house while we was older, and then his new wife, which is my stepmom now. She had three. She had two girls and a boy, and we got this big old Brady bunch. Um, but going through it, my father, he was abused as when he was younger, and like that transition to him, and he thought that abuse was love. That's the best way he knew how to raise us. So I mean, like we would go from being put in the bathroom with a lock on the outside of it, like literally like butt naked to getting whooped, and that was the little bit of what he received. To working all day 24/7 after school, so all we knew was work. We didn't have time to enjoy the festivities that went down on in school. We ended up getting on the band, but even some of that was taken away based off of grades going down, and um, so it was just very interesting to be in a home that had different people in there. Your mom not knowing how to show affection, so we didn't know how to show affection at one point in time, and the abuse that we endured was very tragic. Um, but we were stronger in the end. At the same time, as I got older, I understood that he raised us the best way that he knew how, and that's a conversation I had with him. So, yeah.
Wow, DJ, that's a lot. So, just going through, just experiencing abuse as a young child, how do you think as a Black male that impacted you as far as not being able to express your feelings or having the tools to just pretty much, express yourself as a young person and then growing up into manhood?
Um, it really made me shut down. It really did make me shut down. It made me feel as if I had no one to talk to, and um, as a male who had a father figure and a mother figure in the home, you expect most of the time for your mother to be that person to go to, but when you go to that person, you expect change. So when you don't get change, you just feel like you speaking doesn't do anything for you. It has no value. So when I started getting into relationships, I bottled up everything. I took out everything out in the gym, football, sports. I always used to say I'm okay, even if I wasn't okay. Um, but you would have never known that because I kept a smile on my face 24/7. Not being able to talk actually, um, it it dwindled me as a person. It made me look down on myself a lot. Not being able to voice my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So that right there, and it also once I got out of that mindset, it also made me be able to voice my opinion even bolder and in negative ways. That caused a lot of attention, unnecessary attention, and attraction to negative things because I didn't know how to just hush and take criticism and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like sometimes, or in certain instances, DJ, that particularly with Black men, when they go through such situations, that they tend to gravitate to something as an outlet or coping? Some men they go through women or maybe substance abuse, alcohol, drugs. Some get into fights because they have this anger going on. So, do you agree with that, or do you feel like no? And if so, then what did you do to try to like cope or deal with your feelings and feeling angry?
I do feel like that honestly. I absolutely agree with what you're saying. We find things like that to cope with abuse, substance abuse. Um, women. Mine was women. I because there's a lack of intimacy or affection from a mom. I looked for the affection in the best way that I knew how, and that was sex at the time, sexual immorality. And so that's what I knew. So that's what I cope with to this day. Those are the things that I know God is really tearing down away from me, but I had to learn how to love myself.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love myself at the time, so I seek love from somebody else. And you did bring up a good point, as far as Black men. Um, I, I don't like to go this route sometimes, but there's a lot of other races that would allow their kids to go to therapy, as a child. they teach them like, hey, what's going on in your life? So they go to therapy. They got these counselors and stuff like that. But as black parents, black men, we're always told that, hey, just be strong. We're always told to, suck it up. Them tears ain't gonna do nothing for you, or you talking ain't gonna do nothing for you. It makes us look weak when we voice our opinion.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Me being a PK, growing up in church, mental health is very taboo. To a degree now it still is. And that's why I have platforms like this, because I do want to break down those stereotypes and those boundaries, those walls, because we do need to discuss that. You can pray and shout and run, but you can still be hurting and broken. And I think it's very important that we create spaces for each other like this, to be able to talk and discuss and share. I think it's really important, particularly for men. They have a space where they do feel safe to talk and open up, and in a way where they don't feel like whatever they say is not going to be weaponized against them later. I think that's one of the biggest fears, particularly with men in our community, is because when they were in spaces where they felt comfortable, it was later thrown in their face later and weaponized. And I totally disagree with that. I know just us as people, in relationships, friendships, whatever, there will be disagreements, but I do believe that you can disagree, but you don't have to be disrespectful or start pulling out secrets or go below the belt. I believe in disagreeing, but do so in a space that's still with fairness and equity and also respect. Because once that happens, 9 times out of 10, 10 out of 10, particularly in a relationship, the man is going to shut down and he's going to go, oh, I can't open up to her anymore. I can't talk to my boy anymore. And even within circles with other Black men, to be a safe landing pad, a safe space for your friends, your male friends, because I've had conversations like this with you and other brothers, and they've said, like, even amongst friends, it's very awkward, or they feel uncomfortable, or they do not feel safe opening up to talk within each other because it's weird, or it's not what we do, or you're viewed as a punk, or those terms. And I just feel like it's very important that we have these spaces that brothers can open up and share, because that's where the healing starts.
Amen. I truly agree with you on that.
So going forward, as you were saying, you joined the military, and at one point in time you were homeless. So what kind of what transpired during that time? What took place during that time that leads you into the homeless situation, and what was really going on in your life at that
Um, you talking about prior to the military?
time? Yeah.
Okay. Pride. Pride is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
As a male, again, we just don't. We feel like we have to be so strong that we don't voice that we need help. We try to do it all on our own. Nobody knew that I was sleeping outside. Nobody knew that I was eating out of a garbage can, because I made it look like everything was okay. I kept a smile. I showed up to the events and stuff like that. And it was just a lot of pride. I feel like I could have asked for help simply, but again, it goes back to me voicing myself, and I've told people certain things, and they've just kind of thrown it in your face or spread it around as if it was something to be spread around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I came to these people in confidence and hoping that they could help me genuinely. So,
So when you were going through these things, do you feel like there was forgiveness that needed to take place, or do you feel like there was forgiveness on your end or the other end? If so, what did you do to release that in order to kind of open the next door for your life?
forgiveness definitely needed to take place, because I was giving up from my mother, my biological mom, and my dad was in jail for 12 years. So I never got a chance to spend time with them or anything like that. So I definitely had some ill will towards, not ill will, but I guess like unforgiveness towards them. And
Mhm.
then I'm in this home that abuse is being taken place, and nobody is, listening to you, or no feelings or anything like that. So now you're like, why did you give me up? I could have been with you. And um, so the forgiveness took place. Whew, the forgiveness took place after the military, after Nebraska, when I lost everything the second time. It took place, and when I came back to Charleston, um, I remember I was like, my dad never buys a plane ticket for anything. He never really spends money like that on anybody unless he's showing off at one point in time. But he ended up saying, like, son, and my mom was like, hey, we'll pay for a plane ticket right now to come to you and for you to come home. So I took the opportunity, thinking I would be there for a week. And I remember praying. My mom was like, I've been praying for something for you. And she was like, I've been praying that God is going to keep you here. And I was like, Ma, don't do that. I'm leaving, you know. But I remember right before I was getting ready to leave, 2 days, one of my prayers was that, Father, if I'm supposed to be here, I need you to give me a specific sign. I asked for a shooting star. I'm in the country, so I don't see shooting stars like that all the time. So I said, I need a shooting star. On the day after church, it was like 12 o'clock. I think it was New Year's or something like that. I was like, hey, get ready to fly out. Talking to my mom, talking about everything that I want to do. I wish I could help out with. And lo and behold, right in front of me, a shooting star just comes down.
Wow.
So I was like, no, God, I need another one. I don't want that one right there because I'm leaving. But I ended up getting that one. And I'm thankful that I stayed in Charleston because Charleston actually was the healing process. I needed to come back to mend some things with my father, mend some things with my mother on both sides. And I actually needed to ask for forgiveness in a lot of areas that I conducted some major bad things in some ways. So that forgiveness led to a lot of freedom.
So do you feel like, particularly with young men within your age group, your demographic, when we look at pride, anger, we look at what's going on with social media and the mindset that is taken on whether it's like entitlement or this mindset of privilege, how dangerous do you think that really is for this generation?
It's very dangerous. Because as just in my generation and even below, we don't seek help anymore. And because of that, we rely on survival instincts, and survival instincts aren't always the best instincts at all. And so we do anything by any means necessary to cope with our feelings, to feel good and to look good in front of everybody. So they never know what's actually going on. I done seen some brothers that's sleeping on the floor with rats, but in the club or anything like that, and they look like they flashing. They got all the people around them and stuff.
So why do people do it for the gram, like the social media? Like, I just really don't understand that. Or people within our generation, it's all about the post, the likes, but you're struggling, you're hungry, or you'll spend all your money for a bag of belts, shoes, whatever, but you don't have lights or the fridge is empty. What is that about to you? What do you think and the thing is like, are you even getting money for doing these things, or is it just all the hype and just the image?
That is a level of lack of love from yourself. You get the love from other people. That's how you cope with what you lack in for yourself, the love you lack for yourself. And that's why so many people, they're like, hey, like, share, and it's very detrimental when they don't get the likes or the shares, and they go out of their way to make sure that they can get the likes and the shares. Like you said, they don't get money from it, and it's a crutch for them. It's very much a crutch. It's a way for them to live a lifestyle that they really want to live, but they can't live it, so they live it through the social media eyes. Because nobody can
tell a fantasy, like we've created a fantasy or alter ego or image. And I just feel like a lot of people that experience mental breaks is because they live such a fantasy online that their real life doesn't measure up. So then a depression or anxiety kicks in because you know that you're an imposter, you're a fake, you're not, making yourself to be as big as you proclaim online. So then when people meet you in person, they go, oh, well, I think, this way about you. And I thought this, but then I meet you and it wasn't the case. Or, people renting cars, showing up at events with a rental, just to keep up these pretenses. And I feel like it creates a space for anxiety, depression, or other things Just all because of this image. And I think with our generation, it's very important just to show up and be your authentic self. Um, and that's just how I feel about that. Like, I'm not going to put anything online and pretend to be something I'm not. Like, what you see is what you get. If you don't feel like posting today, don't. I think there's such a hustle behind the need to post 5-6 times a day, every day. Like, that is so mentally draining. Creating content, not that there's anything wrong with it, but to do it in a space that's realistic.
Yeah, that's truth right there, and that comes with that, Instagram or social media algorithm. I guess that's how they say it. They try to keep up with that, and because they try to keep up with that, they're like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I'm like I said, I'm very spiritually inclined, so I just know how the enemy works with that right there. He uses that to his advantage, and we fall right into it because it's a coping mechanism again with what we lack in a real life standard. So it all falls downwards. Is once you get to love yourself, then you'll start understanding all of this stuff isn't a necessity. There's some people who makes it very big without the social media upbringing, and then they got a whole team that does that stuff, and they stay away from it so that way they can, be these creative artists and doctors and everything that they want to be. So some people don't understand that, so they can get their whole life consumed with this, thinking that this person is doing this and this is how they made it. That's not the way to go.
That's true. And as a man, just, hearing you talk and sharing your journey, that just seems like you've gone through so much. So after, being homeless and then you joined the military, was that your breaking point, or was that just like a last resort?
I think that was my breaking point, really. That was my breaking point because I was just like, I done tried everything else. I haven't fully committed my time to Christ. So I've always said it, but I never fully commit, put it on that front like a lot of people do. And that was just my breaking point. I had lost everything. I was like, man, this can't be. I can't go backwards. So I was like, let me try it.
So what happened? Like, you keep saying like you lost everything. So like, what exactly happened?
I was engaged to somebody who was overseas, and I was getting ready to move them over here. And so by any means necessary, I started lying to get off of work so that way I can go find an apartment because they wouldn't afford me time. I started lying to the person that I was staying with, based off of trying to conserve money. I started telling them I didn't have it. So can they give me another time, to pay them just so I can save it. Even with my ex-fiance at the time, I was telling her like, hey, things were going well, all of this stuff, like it was just a bunch of lies and deceits. And eventually it caught up with me. Something that I didn't even do actually exploited everything. My boss was like, hey, you went over here and you were still in time. I was like, no, I clocked out. Look, and I actually really did. And it just opened up the door for everything else. Mm-hmm. And it trickled on down. And I just remember sleeping in my cousin's basement. I didn't know I had family in Nebraska. Nobody goes to Nebraska. So
right.
So I ended up having family in Nebraska. He let me stay in his basement. And I just remember by myself for a week. I was dark. And the last day I was like, God, if you're real, I asked for a hug. That was it. I was by myself. I literally said, hey, I want to feel an embracing peace and a hug. That's it. And I felt something wrap around me, and that was it for me. In a healthy way. I didn't feel anything like demeaning or damaging.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It's just when you're talking, telling your story, and I'm just hearing, about the accountability. Again, we see a lack of that in so many different ways, as far as not taking ownership for our mistakes or our role. We always blame the other person, but it's like, what about your role in the situation? So especially within the realm of manhood, can you kind of unpack the importance of being accountable as a man, like today, particularly for Black men?
That's funny you say that, because I actually got a young men's conference that I got to speak at and perform at tomorrow. Okay. And that's one of the things I was going to talk about is accountability. Accountability is very important. It actually frees you of a lot when you're actually truthful to yourself and truthful to the others. If you don't hold yourself accountable or even have an accountability partner, and I'm not speaking about like a mate, but right. A brother that's telling you, what's wrong. um, you'll damage yourself. You'll really think that you're okay. And holding yourself accountable and speaking the truth about yourself, exposing the things that you don't want to expose. You don't have to say it to nobody else, but putting it out in the open, even in the mirror, looking at yourself, just makes you say, dang, I really am jacked up and I need to fix myself right now before I jack up somebody else or, you know, put my life in a downward spiral.
Wow. I think that's very key, particularly as the next generation comes up. It just seems like they don't fear anything. They're not worried about anything. They're unbothered by everything. They want everything, but then there's the role of victimization or cancel culture, and I'm kind of over the whole cancel culture thing. Like it's maxed out. Like it's almost as if you can't say, do, move a certain way because oh they'll cancel you, oh they'll come for you in the comments, and we're in a space now where everything is scrutinized, overly scrutinized to the point where it's like, when can someone just express their thought? Everything is not someone coming for you. Everything is not hate speech. It's just healthy conversation. And I think it's important that we have spaces where we can communicate without worrying about, cancel culture or things like that.
I think when you get to the point where I don't think I know. So I say what's on my mind, or I say what's even spirit led. And some people be like, well, you can't say that to somebody. Well, let me flip the script. Why can you tell me how I can speak? And when you say something, why is it okay for you to just be comfortable just to say it as well? Because it fits, their emotional attachment, how they feel. And so once I got to the point where I said that everybody is not, this is my scripture that I dwell on. It said the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. And my scripture, I dwell on that. And I'm not even just coming from a spiritual perspective. It's because it's like everybody's not going to like what you say or do. And because of that right there, my truth is my truth. Your truth is your truth. So who am I to tell you that is not? So therefore, I don't debate with others when it comes down to that. I say what's on my mind, what's spirit led, and I let it be. And how they feel, I let them know, like, hey, you can come in my DMs or whatever the case may be, and we can converse about it. But I don't go into a debate factor with it, because once you start debating or you start telling them no and yes or whatever the case may be, they start feeling like they immediately go into a defense mode. So most people don't do it out of love, I should say. They do it out of attraction, just to build up the audience, as opposed to doing it out of love. And love doesn't mean you have to be timid or less bold. It just means that in a good intent, good heart. That's it.
Right. I agree with that too. I also believe when people are exchanging ideas, a lot of times it can be so emotional that the facts are left out or forgotten just because not everyone is an avid reader. We take a lot of things as face value on social media, particularly with Twitter or Instagram, even with Facebook and TikTok. And it's like you still need to go back and fact check, do your homework. And when people are disagreeing, it's like, are you really listening to the other person, or you're physically audibly listening to them, but in the mindset of while they're talking, you're actually trying to figure out a defense or a rebuttal or a clap back, and it's like you're so busy going, yeah, but it's like, are you really hearing what I have to say, to try to see the other side of it, or you're just waiting till I finish so you can come back with another rebuttal?
That's what I always tell somebody. I always say you're listening to respond instead of listening to understand. That's it.
Yeah. So I just think it's so important that if we're going to have these spaces of communication, it's important to hear both sides of it, whether it's a friendship, relationship, professionally, or, within a business setting, to see it from the other person's perspective and also operate in empathy. I think it's very important because a situation happened last weekend. It was something small, minute, and I had an appointment, and the appointment got canceled. And at first I was irritated, and I didn't respond to their text message initially because I was so focused on what I wanted. But then when I took a moment to pause and I looked at it from the other person's perspective, I was like, wow, they're probably, and they explained to me their situation. And then I operated in empathy, and I said, well, I can only imagine what you're going through right now and what that feels like, because I'm not in your position. We'll work it out. It's cool. We'll change the date or whatever. And that person texted me back and said, wow, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you. And I think sometimes we're so focused on having things our way, getting what we want, pushing our agenda, that we forget to also operate in empathy. You know, it's like we want grace, but you have to give it. You have to give what you're requesting. If you want somebody to, you know, have mercy and grace, you know, if you want it, you have to also extend it as well.
You are 100% correct. Extending grace and mercy is a is a huge factor that we don't have anymore, and we don't think from the other person's perspective anymore. We
Yeah.
just think from ours, and I mean, sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes I have to. I say me. I'm gonna use me for an example. I can't use anybody else. Sometimes you just know it's time for you to just do certain things. You have to move on. And as much as you want to think from another person's perspective, emotionally is sometimes how we tie ourselves into things that shouldn't be tied into, because we allow our emotions to speak as opposed to purpose and what needs to be conducted at the moment. Um, if I see myself dwindling down in a certain area, or compromising with things I don't normally compromise with, I gotta go. I gotta do certain things. I gotta maneuver a certain way, to get myself back in that headspace.
So let me ask you a question. What do you feel like men can do for each other in order to allow a space to feel safe to talk amongst your friends without being viewed as weak or, oh, you're being soft? Like how do you guys change that? Because it seems like women, we always, girl, I need to talk. You know, we can talk at the hair salon, at home, in the car, wherever. Like we're just naturally, by nature, we communicate. But for you guys, it's always an awkward space. So what do you feel like, particularly with Black men, that you guys can do for each other to create opportunities or spaces to open up freely and talk and communicate without feeling like to be vulnerable, or I hate to say the word emotional, but just to be human without backlash or it being weaponized.
We got to stop being so how can I say it? We got to stop looking for friendships based off of what they had and look for what they can provide. Iron sharpens iron. We actually have a group that we just started, and it started off from a Instagram live. We was going to do a conference, and the conference was called Intimacy Amongst Brothers. And now we have this big group chat to where us brothers, we get in there and we talk. We let them know what we're going through. We share anything from the sexual immorality that we conducted to how we're trying to stop, watching porn, to the lack of financial stability, to we just share anything and everything with each other. And we built that through purposeships. We didn't rely on friendship. We relied on the purpose behind what's going on. And through the purpose, we built up a friendship. So find somebody who you can actually, I say pray on it, for somebody who you can actually conduct yourself with and just be open with. I'm capable of being open with my brothers, but that's because I'm capable of being transparent with my music. So why can't I be transparent with the people that I say I love?
So how can I word this? How important or how powerful do you think transparency is for Black men once you do get into that space? Like how powerful can that really be for you?
Oh man, being transparent can liberate others very much, because they look at the level of people that you impact, and when they see you being transparent, then they feel like other people can be transparent as well. They can actually let go of some of those things that they have bottled up. I use an example. A lot of people, and I'm gonna go with the homosexual portion. I had an incident to where I was molested, and then my father used to call me gay 24/7 because I wanted to wait till I was married to have sex, and then the confusion that set in my mind. So I put that in one of my songs, and I was letting them know, like, I know what y'all feeling, point blank, period. I'm there with you. I might not have went to the extent that a lot of people have, but I'm there with you. So, like, me being transparent opened the eyes in my inbox. It opened the eyes of other people, because they was just like, man, like, look, I want to stop this, or I want to do this, or I want to do this, or whatever the case may be. I want to be open about what's going on, but I don't know how to be. And I let them know, like, stop caring about what other people think in the beginning, and just be you. When you're in love with yourself, you stop caring about what other people think. And because of that, it helped to liberate others. I don't know what they've done in their own. They haven't exposed and said, hey, I'm doing this or do that. But I put a lot of flaws that I had, from the amount of sex that I had with women to the drinking to the all of that, in a song called True Flaws. And because of that, it helped liberate me at the same time. Now I care less what anybody thinks in that way.
So I think it's such a double standard for men and women. So a woman, if she were to be, sexually liberated, then she gets a label. It's like, oh, you shouldn't have a high body count. Most men don't want a woman with a high body count. But then it's almost like men are, from young boys, are pushed into having notches on the belt, knocking them down, bodies, whatever you want to call it. It's like it's celebrated, and the more, the better. But actually, isn't that the opposite? Like, isn't that actually can make you feel depressed, or you lowers your self-esteem because you're running through so many women, but you do it because you have to keep up with the circle of friends, and it's not what you really want to do, but you do it because it's what's expected from you socially.
Yes, it's actually worse, and I never pushed that. But it more so stems not even from your brothers. It stems more so from the fathers. A lot of fathers, they were raised like that. So when they get to their kids, their thing is, I don't want, and like I said, I'm not. I hope you're okay with this, but the first thing they say is, I don't want my son to be gay. That's what they'll say. And so they'll tell their kids, and I've had this happen, and I've seen it happen. They'll be like, son, my biological father, he let his sons have sex with his girlfriends just to make sure. This is my biological father.
But isn't that actually like sexual abuse?
It is, but I mean, they wanted to please him. So by any means of pleasing him, like, not the women, but the boys, my brothers wanted to please him. They wanted to hear, well done, high five. This the lifestyle you living, so it must be good. So they wanted to please him by any means. So they was willing to do whatever it took, to do that. And that's what we do as brothers. We tell our brothers, like, hey, do this, do that. And we don't know that it's just diminishing our spirit. It's diminishing, like you said, it creates a level of depression because you don't know how to commit for one. So that's why a lot of brothers now, we lose a lot of jobs because we never knew how to commit in the first place. And it just doesn't stem from a relationship. It stems from the amount of people you run through, the amount of friendships that you diminishing. So,
can you unpack that a little bit more? Because it just seems like it dominoes into other areas of your life, not just with a relationship.
Yeah, it does. Commitment, lack of commitment in a relationship, or just lack of commitment, period, makes you don't know how to stay with a job. You don't know how to look for longevity anymore. Then you don't know how to, soon as something wrong happens with your friendship, we'll even go with that, something that's minute, but you're just like, hey, this person isn't for me. You never took the time to unpack what's going on and why that person thought like that. So you lose a friendship. So now you start saying, oh, I came up on my own. I did it. No, you put yourself on your own by yourself because you thought something, just because it didn't fit your criteria, you left. So, and that started with lack of commitment. So then you don't know how to, with your kids. Now you don't know how to stay in their lives. All you know how is to do what you're doing just to keep you up. So, that's why we get a lot of brothers who not in their kids' lives, because they don't know the commitment portion that is special. And I remember hearing something one time that if you knew, if if you knew, like, if you're not committed to something, God will never bless you with something full because you can't be committed to one thing. So how can you be committed to what he's going to bless you with if you can't be committed to the little things that's on this earth?
Wow, that's deep. So my thing, okay. So you just said a mouthful. You just said a whole mouthful. So then my next question is, when a man is going through these things and they have depression, like the pressure of being the provider, the father, the husband, or the boyfriend, the job, dealing with how can I work, stereotypes within society, discrimination, all this weight, but yet showing up like the pressure, doesn't that make you feel anxious or depressed, or I want to say like at a breaking point, but quietly, it seems like men are quietly suffering because they don't have an outlet to talk or express themselves, or therapy is taboo. So, particularly for Black men, like it just sounds like it's a very scary place to reside as a man.
It is. I will say this: we do have outlets. We choose not to voice them based off of, as opposed to looking at the outlets as they're helping. Again, it stemmed from, hey, you're weak. We start hearing those thoughts in the back of our mind if you start doing that. And so we immediately dismiss them, or we go to counseling or therapy. And we say, hey, it didn't help. But in all, you never looked at it from the perspective of, I was open with a random person, so now I can be open with my spouse. Now I can be open with, my friends. Now I was open with a random person, and that's how I
Mhm.
look. When I went to therapy, and I began to, and I got into a relationship. I was like, I can be open with this person. So why the same things that I'm voicing to them, why can't I voice to the person that I'm in a relationship with? And that's when I started saying, hey, I'm gonna communicate even more. I won't move from another conversation or anything until I communicate one thing. Point blank period. I won't let it go past a day. Or even if it goes past a day in the morning, I'm communicating in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through my music, or poetry or something. I'll write it down, send it to the person, whatever the case may be. But it's a lot of pressure because um, we don't know who to communicate to, because we think everybody is against us. We don't show the love, or like you said, the grace and the mercy to each other. We don't extend that to each other so we can communicate those things.
Yeah, I think that's where it's hard, particularly when it comes to relationships, because if you're with someone and they're wanting to get to know you, or kind of tear down that wall, and then there's this defense mechanism that's going on because there is no trust. Because by the time you meet that person, we don't know you've gone through abuse or molestation or with homelessness. Like we don't know. And so a lot of times as a woman, a man can have up a whole wall and we can ask what's wrong. We can feel it like, hey, what's wrong? And you're just like, nothing, I'm fine. And that can create tension. And the woman will think, well, is it me? Did I do something wrong? Why is he not talking to me? And it's you're shut down. There's a part of you that's shut down, or distance is not there. And so then she begins to pull back because she's thinking, well, maybe he's talking to someone else, or, then her wheels start turning. So now that's another ingredient thrown into the relationship, that if someone doesn't talk, it can start to cause division within the relationship because no one is communicating, because you have this wall up and she's trying to get to you, but it's like, okay, that's enough. Like, I'm not going to let you get close to me because of precedence, what's happened to you before.
You are absolutely 100% right. That comes with trust, and we got to live by the code. Innocent until guilty. We got to live by that code. We lack the trust because we don't put trust in somebody in the first place.
Yeah, I think more than anything, beyond being a black man, just to operate as a human being. Meaning, if you're hurt, you should be able to cry. If you're angry, to be able to express that in a way that's healthy. If you're sad, to be able to express that in a way that's healthy. But I think a lot of black men, and that's why I like having these conversations, because I think it's very important that men hear people that look like them, sound like them, so they don't feel like it's just them. Because I think there's this misnomer going out here thinking I'm the only one going through this, and it's like, no, brother, you're not. There's so many others going through these things, but we need to have these spaces so you feel like, and it's not just you. Because when you can relate to someone and connect with someone, you can reach out, whether it's through an email or a DM, and say, hey, I saw your interview, or I saw a live or a post, and thank you for sharing that with me. And then those relationships can be created offline. So within each other in your own communities, to have those conversations and start the healing process. I think that's very important.
It is. It is. And I can't even add on to that what you just said, because that's just where it's at. That's signed, sealed, and delivered.
So touching on your music, So here you are, you've got new music out. What has been your primary inspiration, DJ, for the writing?
People. Um, I told God that, hey, I've misrepresented you all my life, and if I'm gonna represent you, I'm gonna share my testimony for those who won't share it, like you said, and hoping that they'll be liberated, that they'll feel, somebody who's going through what they're going through, been through what they've been through, and that they can be open to somebody, and comfortable. So, um, and a lot of the music stems from my life. Everything that's in there is my life story. Most people won't know it. They'll think that, oh no, this guy couldn't have did all of this. Like, yeah, I'm exploiting myself. That's why I topped it off with the name True Flaws, to let you know that, hey, I'm a regular person just like you.
Yeah. So even for young men out here today, like you can be cool and still live for God. Like I think that's possible. I think there's such a false image of what a Christian should be, or if you get mad or upset, like, oh, I thought you were saved, you're angry. It's like I'm still a person, and particularly for men, then there's another pressure of, air quotes walking the path, but you're still human. You're still in this skin, in this life. And I think there's so many, again, labels that what people feel or think a Christian or someone that lives for God should do should be like this box. And it's
Mhm.
like when you look around everything that God has created, God is diverse. He's not in a box. He's dynamic. He's loud. He has expression. I mean, you can see it in the trees and the flowers, the water, just is everywhere. So it's like, well, if God is dynamic and everything He's created is dynamic, then why is it when we get to people, it's got to be in this tiny box? And I just feel like that's not the case.
Because we've let our emotions rule what's going on as opposed to what the truth is. We're emotionally driven. That's something I always pray on too, that my emotions be in line with the Father, you know, because emotions is very dangerous. They're very helpful, but they're very dangerous. So we've taken our own emotions and said, this is Christ-like. And we top that, we put that together, and then we issued it out to everybody else. So
Wow. Well, I do want to say thank you for joining me here and just sharing your story. I think it's very powerful. And those that, if they missed the live, they can go back and, and catch it again later. So those that want to connect with you or hear more about your story or your music, DJ, where can they connect with you on social media?
you can follow me at I am DA Smalls on Instagram. It's DA Smalls on Facebook. You can look up on any streaming platform, D.A Smalls. Type in True Flaws or just D.A Smalls, and you'll see any music that's up there. I really do hope you enjoy. I'm truly thankful for Miss Camille with what she's doing right now and allowing us to help others and reach out to others. But yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, this is your girl, Camille Essick, host of the Speaker Podcast, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. And I have some great news. The Speaker Podcast, as of yesterday, has officially launched as a website. So you can go there. Yeah, thank you. Go there and subscribe, and you can catch up with all the news there. That is at thespeakerpodcast.com. And be able to do that, just go right now on my Instagram page. Hit the link in my bio. It's the very first one at the top. Hit that. And if you subscribe, you'll get $10 off just for subscribing on your first purchase. So you definitely want to do that. I have merchandise coming through very soon, in addition to some other things. And if you also missed last week, the Heart and Soul 2021 conference, you can catch there as well on my YouTube channel. So go to my YouTube page and you can catch the replay there. And it's also available at thespeakerpodcast.com. So hit the notification button and follow me on Instagram at Camille.Essick and get all the merchandise on my website as well. So DJ, thank you again for joining us tonight. Stay on. We're going to chat for a little bit. And everybody, I hope you have a good weekend. Be blessed. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.